Hi. Okay, so I have not given an update on mom because we have been dealing with some legal issues. Um, as far as her pacemaker is concerned, it's healing up well. All the bruising that was here is pretty much healed up. She has an appointment to get the stitches out on Tuesday. Um, and so, as far as that's concerned, things are going well. Let's talk about power of attorneys. Um, and hopefully I'm sharing this because those of you who have elderly parents or even ourselves as getting older um, might want to think about power of attorney. So let's talk about the essence and the general practice of power of attorneys. And so specifically we're talking about medical and financial, um, which I hold my mother's medical power of attorney. My sister holds financial power of attorney, which is where the issue is. Now, when I went to the hospital with my mom the day of the pacemaker procedure, I brought my power of attorney medical copy, a copy of my mother's living will, which is her intentions as far as life-saving measures, life support, things like that. And so just to put it on file for that day, just in the event that something happened. Thank God nothing did. It wasn't needed, so we're good. But let me tell you about the essence of a power of attorney. So the doctor looked over all the paperwork, and he came in to ask my mother, which pacemaker she wanted. So it seems that there is a new pacemaker that gets implanted. It's a little implant, that goes inside the heart and paces the heart from within the heart. And it's just injected in a certain specific part of the heart. And it works for like 15 years or something. And there's no wires. And instead of implanting it here where she has it, and then feeding the wires into the heart, it's wireless and it's, newfangled, blah, blah, blah. And so let me just say, just because I had power of attorney over her medical, and they no way talked to me, they talked to my mother, so my power of attorney means nothing as long as my mother is in her right mind and can make her own decisions and isn't unconscious, which is what a power of attorney is. Okay, if that person, your relative, yourself, whatever, is unable to make their own decisions due to being out of their mind, crazy, Alzheimer's, dementia, or unconscious, then the power of attorney kicks in. Not before, okay? Never before. So they addressed my mother as to which pacemaker she wanted. Turned out that the second pacemaker couldn't be done without general anesthesia. And because of her Parkinson's and complications of general anesthesia and Parkinson's, she was unable to have that one, which she actually wanted, but then found out that it could only be done under general anesthesia. And the doctor said, no, we got to go back to the original one. So anyway, so the pacemaker is put in. We get home. The hospital thankfully gave her a medical car. And, the guy, the gentleman helped us in the house with the wheelchair and everything was good. Helped me get her up into bed upstairs and, up and we were good. The next day, my sister calls to say that her and her husband have decided to do, start liquidating my mother's assets as far as real estate is concerned, and this house in particular, because they're concerned about her retirement plan, going down to zero, and that they've had to take like 20 grand since the beginning of the year to pay my mom's bills, and that they're going to do a reverse mortgage. So, being nosy, I go upstairs and I ask my mother if my sister has asked her anything about, getting a reverse mortgage on the house. And my mother said, absolutely not. She doesn't want that. No, 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 no. I said, were you aware that your daughter took $20,000 out of your retirement since the first of the year? She wasn't aware of all that money either. So that ensued a conversation, and my mother decided, I told her, I said, listen, you don't need them to pay your bills. You don't need them to be in charge of your finances. Obviously, they're taking it a little too far. You know, you don't make a decision on your mother's house without talking to her first. I mean, they made the decision. We've made a decision that we're going to do something because we want to hold this money in the event it's needed. Let me just tell you a little something about that. Back when I was in undergrad and I was in my, my law studies, I had a professor who I went to clerk for on a work study in her law practice. And during that time, her father died. And she was in business for years with her father. And the father and she had a dual savings account together, a checking account together, a business account together. Okay. Now, after the father died, the sister, went into probate court, and this, my professor wanted to pay the sister for her father's part of the house. They had a big, huge house that was like, it was huge, and it was all one level, and they had broken in half. So half was my professor's and half was the father, and they lived together, and except for that they were separate. But anyway, the sister, who was the professor, wanted to pay the other sister, her sister, for the half of the house and give her, whatever other, that she was entitled to. But that wasn't good enough for the sister. So the sister wanted all the money that was, half the money that was in all those bank accounts. And let me just tell you how I went to probate court with, here's what happened. If your parent or anybody has an account, bank account, that is owned dually, so there's two names on it, my name, my mom's name, those bank accounts do not go into probate. Those automatically go to the other person. So she was fighting over money she had no right to. And so that was my problem with my sister saying that she was going to take a reverse mortgage out on this house. Number one, reverse mortgages are always a bad idea because you could outlive it. So if the reverse mortgage is for a specific amount of time and you outlive it, you're homeless because you got to go. Second thing is that if they take a reverse mortgage out and they get a big check and they put it in their own bank account to pay my mom's bills, that now this house now becomes their cash and I have no right to it. And let me just say, it just July 1st, it just came to be 7 years of working 24/7 to take care of my mother. And let me just say, I'll be damned if I walk away penniless, homeless, and jobless. I have to protect my interest. Now, if my mother has to use all of her money and the equity in this home to care for her, that's a whole nother thing. But I want to know where that money's going. I don't want that money to be in my sister and her husband's name, and then they can just put me out of here. It's not going to happen like that. And so I had to tell my mom, listen, this is scary because, they are, you know, planning on liquidating your assets, but they don't necessarily have to do, once money is in your name, you can take administrative costs. You can take time and energy it took for you to do whatever. You can start paying yourself. And legally, they can do that. Now, it can be as obsessive or more than it should be, but you have to prove that. And it's very hard to prove that. And once you fight all that in court, there probably isn't any money left anyway. So it's moot. So let me just say, that concerned me. It concerned my mother. So we went to go see the lawyer, rescinded the financial power of attorney. No one has power of attorney. She can make her own decisions. If the time comes where she can't, I'll deal with that when I come to it. But let me just say this, 89 years old, if she's still in her right mind, and the Parkinson's is not affecting her as far as Parkinson's related dementia to any severe degree, which it is not. She might be a little confused in the morning, like what day is it, or, whatever. But I mean, she, after she wakes up, takes a pee, and she's fine. So her being out of her mind is not even an issue right now. So my suggestion was to open up a checking account with her name and my name, put most of the money in a savings account, that can be transferable, only in her name. We will sit at the kitchen table and pay all the bills, which I pretty much set up automatic payment for all of them, direct, gas, water, garbage, blah, blah, blah. And so that's not even an issue. Chair lifts, insurances, all of it. We sat there and I set up, direct deposit or, monthly easy pay or whatever you want to call it for all those bills. So that's not even an issue. I bought her a little laptop, put it on the laptop. We sat there and I went through it. When her deposits came in for Social Security and one of her retirement accounts, I showed her, here's your deposit. Let's move it over to savings. You don't need that much in the checking, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we're good. Here's the problem. My sister and her husband had a freaking heart attack. They went batshit crazy. Are you calling us thieves? And nobody said anything about a thief. All that was said is that Mom wants to take care of her own finances and is rescinding your power of attorney. Well, come to find out, when my mom called Thrivent, which is the company that holds her retirement accounts and her investment accounts, they didn't want to change the deposit to the new checking account because somehow they became aware or were convinced, or however you want to say it, that my mother wasn't in her right mind and had no legal right to her finances anymore. So they didn't want to change that bank account. So they called my mother's investment guy, and he got on the phone on a three-way call, and I said, listen, you better do something, because these people are convinced that my mother is not of sound mind. And you were just here a couple months ago, and she is. And you allowed this to happen, and your license is at stake right now, because I will complain. So you better tell these people that, my sister was running around with a power of attorney like a bank account. She was running around convincing people that my mother wasn't in her right mind and that my sister was handling all my mother's finances and making all the decisions because my mom wasn't all there. And when my mother heard Thrivent say that, like, we don't believe that you're, of sound mind, your daughter, blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, she is heartbroken. And let me just say, I know what I know, if you know what I mean. I knew this was going on. I knew that this was happening. I warned this guy, this investment guy, listen, be careful, be aware, because if it, that this is what they're doing, and he, understand what the essence and the common practice of a power of attorney is. He did not. Neither did Thrivent. Now, let me just say that before you can start waving around a power of attorney and saying, I own this person's finances, you need paperwork to prove that this person is incapacitated. You have to go to court and say, look, here's my mom. She's out of her freaking mind. I need to have that power, that paperwork that proves that she is unable to handle her. You can't just go around and say, oh, I have a power of attorney, and so I own everything. No, it don't work like that. Just like at the hospital, they didn't give a shit about my medical power of attorney. My mother could make her own. My power of attorney didn't exist until it needed to be, until it needed to exist. And since it didn't need to exist that day, it was a moot. It was moot. It didn't matter if it was there or it wasn't. My mother made her own decision. Okay? Same thing with her finances. You can't just walk around and say, I'm going to take a reverse mortgage out on this house and put the money in my own account just in case it's no. And they were actually going to do this. I'm like, I don't think so. And so they had a little hissy fit. And, my mother had no passwords, no usernames to any of her accounts. She had no access to anything, including her own bank accounts. So, it took me probably 3 or 4 days to be able to get all that done with her. He did finally change all the emails, so at least I could get emailed new usernames and passwords. I'm still trying to get through to the electric company to do the electric company is just a nightmare to get through to. Okay, but everything else is done. Let me just say, my brother-in-law messaged us that, they weren't going to give us any usernames and passwords, that I needed to figure it out myself. And for the near future, since my sister thinks that my mother thinks that she's a thief, which that was never said. It was just said that my mother wants to, my mom said that she just wants to handle her own finances from now on, and, guilty conscience much. But anyway, it was said that my sister's health is fragile and is of their utmost concern, and that my mother and I have always been toxic to my sister. And so from now on, any and all communication needs to be through him, text only, and there will be no phone calls or communication. And since then, they've stopped communicating altogether. So fine with me, but my mother's heartbroken. So my mom is heartbroken, that they took it so bad, and that they, had hissy fits and texted nasty messages and called names. And, my brother-in-law just, I'm like, now you see why I never liked him. This is his true thing, that face that they show you when they come over here is not really them. Now you see. And, it's a hard reality. And, it was suggested the day that we went to go see the lawyer, that I take over financial power of attorney. I don't need it. I don't need financial power of attorney. All I need is access to that checking account so that, I have the legal authority to pay her bills right there in front of her, so she can see the balance on her accounts. She can see what's going out. She can see that they're paid. She can see the balance, period. I don't need access to her savings. I don't need access to any of that, because when she passes, and whenever that is, I'm executor of the state. So any power of attorneys after her death is over anyway. An executor kicks in. So I don't need power of attorney for finances. As long as she's alive, she can handle the shit herself, with me helping her. you know, uh, and really, all the bills are being paid through, electronic every month. So it's like mute. You didn't have to sit there and pay bills every month. All you have to do is check your balances, and the email will send statements. So you got that to back it up. I don't need it. I don't need that kind of power. I don't need that at all. And for them to get so upset about losing power of attorney kind of is a red flag. Like, why are you so upset about losing financial power of attorney unless you have some kind of ulterior motive, which was proven they did? And so, interesting that. But, she's still trying to get over the fact that, her daughter, she's still trying to get over it and, get a grasp on the fact that, the daughter that played the, oh, I'm so perfect, and oh, I love you so much, and oh, I wish I could help you. And, now all of a sudden, in the text message, excuse me, was said that, my sister has lasting effects from her stroke that she had. And that, she's not walking well, and, she's barely moving and all this mess. When the day after she had the stroke, we got a phone call, which I recorded, that said, oh, I had a stroke, but today I'm fine. No lasting effects. The stroke showed up on the MRI, but you know what? It's a miracle. I'm fine. No lasting effects. And guess what? We're going on vacation tomorrow. Now all of a sudden, she can't walk. She has lasting effects of the stroke. Any stress raises her blood pressure in fear of another stroke. Oh my God. Save that shit for somebody who might believe it. But anyway, it's just, it's just sickening, the lies. It really is. And now she sees all the lies that were told to her and over the years. And it's not a good thing. And, I feel bad. But, at the same time, I'm over here doing all the work, wiping her ass, holding her up, doing her laundry, changing her bed all the time. Taking her to the doctor, sitting at the hospital, renting cars, running back and forth. I'm doing all the work. That's only a small portion of what I do. Not to mention keeping the house up, cleaning the gutters because there were trees growing in them. Washing windows, all this shit. And, all alone, no help, nothing. And then, come to find out whenever she passes 10 years from now, whenever, ain't none left because they own it all. Oh no, I wasn't going to let that happen. Let's be perfectly clear. Okay. Wasn't going to let that happen. And so, there it is. I'm not trying to be greedy. I'm just trying to protect my interests and my mother's interests. And so that's where I've been very busy taking care of that, putting out fires. She's crying a lot. And, it's just awful. And, meanwhile, stone silence from my sister, which makes it even worse, because she's hiding. And I guess maybe if I did, which I would never, but if I had done what she did, I'd probably be hiding forever too. So that's probably the last we're going to hear from my sister. Not from my mom, though. Me, I could give a shit about her. But, my mom, it hurts my mom because she was the golden child. I was the black sheep. So, oh well. Well, anyway, so that's where I am. So I hope you got something out of this. If not, sorry. But we'll see you again. Thanks for watching. Hit the like for me. Okay, bye.